In today's episode, we learn how to properly install tiles. This is Kyriakos for EMS. If you enjoy our content, remember to subscribe and drop a like down below. Welcome to today's episode, and we'll get right to the video. To begin with, we need to sort out what are the tools needed for this project. But before that, a quick mention that the list of tools and materials is provided in the description below, so there is no need to look for a pen or a paper. You can find them later on there. So the tools needed are a steel-plated trowel, a non-steel plated trowel with 1 cm notches, or for those of you using the imperial system, a 1/4 inch thick, a spirit level, either an electronic or a traditional one, rubber head hammer, nylon rope string, which we'll explain later why this is needed, tile levelers and spacers, or traditional tile spacers, for which the preferred size differentiates. For indoor tiles is 2 mm and for outdoor tiles is 3 mm. The difference between the two is the fact that the levelers and spacers, besides keeping the grout line straight, will also help with keeping the floor level. An angle grinder to help you with the cuts that are going to be done. Just pointing out, if you have an angle grinder, you just need to purchase a diamond blade suitable for cutting tiles. If you don't, the one suggested in the list below comes in a package that includes both the angle grinder and the diamond blade as well. Make sure to find the suitable blade size for your grinder if you are only buying the blade. And finally, to complete the list with materials required for this project, you are going to need a Quartz adhesion primer, a cement-based waterproof Agen if you intend to install tiles on outside areas, and a very strong tile adhesive. The first step is to prepare your old flooring for installing the new tiles by applying the Quartz adhesion primer. This product acts as an intermediate bonding primer which creates a crystallized rough surface for the adhesive to stick to. For those of you who intend to install tiles on outside verandas, etc., there is an additional step that follows the adhesion primer. This step is to be sure to apply a waterproof agent before installation of tiles. Back to the adhesion primer for a second. There are various products that act as a bonding primer, but I have found that quartz-based adhesions are one of the best out there, with very good adherence capabilities, with that quartz appearance like it's full of crystals. The application of such products is very easy. You just spread an even volume of the material using either a broom or painter's brush, and the curing period, i.e. the time needed for the product to dry up, is normally 24 hours, but depending on the manufacturer, there should be a suggested curing time on the product's label. Now, returning to the waterproofing agent. This is a very crucial point when dealing with installing tiles in outside areas that I strongly suggest you do in order to avoid moisture rising in the walls, which can lead to those disgusting mold problems. Such materials can be applied indoors as well, but there isn't much need for it because you are not expecting running or still water under the floor inside. The material shown on this video is a cement-based waterproof agent which comes in bags of 25 kilos, and the only added substance is water when mixing. The powder-water ratio will always be written on the label of the material, and it's the one it should be used. If you find it hard to apply, you can add some water, but not too much quantity. Again, like the adhesion primer, it can be applied using a broom or a painter's brush or a roller. And the important thing, or rather the two important things, are that the waterproof agent should also be applied up to the walls for at least up to the 5 cm, and the edges where the walls meet the old tiles, they should be filled and completely sealed off to avoid future leakage. When the 24-hour window has passed, the quartz primer has dried up and you are ready to proceed further. Before you can begin installing tiles, there is one last preparation step to take so that you can achieve a perfect and alignment fitment of the tiles. The alignment procedure might sound intimidating to begin with, but let's simplify the procedure. Begin by laying on the floor on the door side either one or two rows of tiles with no adhesive and with spacers. This will act as your first guideline to pulling the rope strings that will be your permanent guidelines later on. At the opposite corner, lay a single tile which will act as your secondary point for your guideline. You should make sure to allow sufficient gap between tiles and wall to avoid the rise of the tiles in the case of expansion during temperature changes. Finally, from the inner edge of the two tiles that are by the wall, pull your first rope string. This will become eventually your guideline. Then, pull a secondary rope string that will follow the edge of the row of the tiles you have laid and should be parallel to the entrance wall. Generally speaking, if the tiles that are to be installed are 60 by 60 cm, you should pull your ropes at least 60.5 cm back from the wall. Then verify that you have left sufficient space by measuring a couple of different places between rope and wall. Finally, you should apply Pythagoras' theorem as shown and triangulate the ropes between them. Mark the 3 meter and 4 meter distances on the rope strings respectively and measure the hypotenuse of the triangle to be 5 meters. If this is correct, then your guidelines are perpendicular. If this is false, adjust the end points of your ropes accordingly until you have the distances 3, 4, and 5. It pays to remember that if you have a smaller hypotenuse distance, the outer points of your rope should be moved outwards by a little, while if it's larger, the end points should be moved inwards. It's important to remember that you should do minor movements, as this will translate to a larger change of the distance of the hypotenuse. The tile installation procedure begins with applying the adhesive on the floor. The adhesive should be applied using the notch trowel. As mentioned before, the preferable size for the notches should be 1 cm or 1/4 of an inch. Using the trowel, spread the adhesive evenly by pressing down on the floor. Key element to this is that by adjusting the angle of the trowel to the floor, you can control the amount of adhesive applied. The amount will vary depending on the floor unevenness and how much is needed to get a level floor result. Then, apply adhesive on the back of the tile with the straight side of the trowel, so that you can have a better bonding between adhesive and the tile. Lay the new tile on the floor and using the rubber head hammer, give it a few taps until it's level. Use the spirit level to check whether it's level or not and adjust accordingly. The first tile should be laid on the edge of the rope string. Set the second tile, the third, the fourth, etc. with the spacers. Check the whole row for levelness. Repeat the procedure and install the second row as well. At this point, you should take your time and recheck that you are in line with your rope guidelines and check for any unevenness in the rows before proceeding. Any alignment problems should be dealt with at this point, because if you make a small error by millimeters, let's say, it will grow bigger as you install more lines. The levelers and spacers should help you better than traditional spacers, since besides keeping the groove line straight, they also help with keeping the tiles level, making it easier for you to install. As soon as you finish checking the alignments and levelness, you can proceed the procedure and install more rows of tiles. The important is to always place the first tile of the row where the guidance line is and checking that you are correctly placing the edge along the guideline. The suggested drying period for the adhesive to stiffen and be able to support your weight is normally 24 hours, but in some cases it might need more time to set, depending on weather conditions or the sub-base condition. For example, when the Quartz adhesion is used, the primer extends the set time of the adhesive, so you should avoid stepping on the tiles for a period of 36 or 48 hours. The tiles that are placed on the edges most of the times will need to be trimmed to fit in place. Install the second to last tile of the row and then measure the opening between tile and wall. If your opening is, let's say, 30 centimeters, you should cut the tile to be 29.3 centimeters. This will allow for a gap between tile and wall and enough room for the spacer to sit between tiles. The way this 7 or 8 mm cut has derived is through this thought procedure. There is a need for 2 mm or 3 mm for the spacer to be installed, depending on the spacer you use, i.e. a 2 mm spacer for indoors or 3 mm spacer for outdoors. There is also the gap between tile and wall to consider, which is around 5 mm. Add the two and then subtract it from the total opening, 30 cm minus 7 or 8 accordingly. When the cuts get more complex, give it a few tries and don't be discouraged if you don't succeed at first. Keep in mind to try the tiles without adhesive before installation to check if they properly fit in the openings or if they need some more trimming. When the curing stage of the adhesive has passed, the gluting can be done. The choice of the color depends really on your preferences and what it is you like. It can either be a matching color to the tile or a completely different one to that of the tiles, so that the line of the grout pop out to the eye. This is aesthetically based and sometimes it depends on the tiles as well. The general idea is that you go for a matching color so that the tiles blend together and look seamless. So, this was all for today's video. Now you are ready to begin your project. This was the end of our video. If you enjoyed our content, drop a like, subscribe and click that notification bell. Thank you for watching.